Hey everybody, this is Joe Gilder from HomeStudioCorner.com, and today let's talk quickly about mastering. As you can see in front of me, this is the mastering suite that comes with PreSonus' Studio One Professional, and it's pretty cool. For one thing, a lot of platforms like Pro Tools, for example, don't come with their own mastering suite, so you have to go out and buy something like Peak Pro or Wave Lab or things like that. One of the many reasons I like Studio One from PreSonus, and I'm using it more and more, is that it does actually come with the mastering suite built in. That's Studio One Professional. The artist version does not. The professional version does, just so you know. But this is not a PreSonus commercial. This is actually, I want to talk to you about what I use when I'm mastering, or what my plugin chain is. Now, don't watch this video and think that you should copy this exactly, because these plugins were chosen based on what the individual songs and tracks needed. But this gives you a general idea of the workflow that I use when mastering. And a lot of this I learned from my buddy Ian Shepard, who has a couple of great mastering classes. One of them being the Home Mastering Masterclass that I'll tell you about here in a little bit. So this is a song. This is actually the mastering session from a live album that I recorded. This is actually the CD release concert from my last album. So this is actually my music being played. We did acoustic versions with 2 acoustic guitars, a cajon, and bass, and it turned out really nicely. So here's what the final deal sounds like.
1, 2, 3. Boy, how this river used to flow, rushing me into new lands. It would take me anywhere I wanna go, but now it's all out of my hand. I've been treading water, I'm treading water.
So yeah, those guys can play, and it just turned out really cool. So really happy with that, but obviously it needed to be mastered. So the way this works is, if you've never seen Mastering Suite before, you've got all your tracks here. So track 1, track 2, 3, 4, 5, and then each individual track is listed here. So if I click on Treading Water, which we were just listening to, it selects it here, and it shows me a series of plugins. Let's just go through the plugin list here. If you look over here, you've got essentially a set of inserts on that individual track. So this is on the song Treading Water, and then you've got post fader, not really post fader, these are post processing, kind of like a master fader inside of your regular mixing platform. So these plugins don't change from song to song. These are the plugins that are on every song. So every song passes through these set of plugins, but then each song has its own individual plugins to it. So the settings actually are different for every song within these plugins, but then on the final song, once they go through these plugins, everything goes through these. And that's the way I like to set it up. So what do we have here? Well, we've got Mix Tool, which is essentially just a gain plugin that I'm using. We got an EQ plugin, Multiband Compressor, another EQ plugin, and then so that's on the individual per track basis. And then down here for the quote, I guess, master fader section, if you want to call it that, we've got a limiter, the L1 from Waves, the VUMT Duo, which is a VU meter plugin, and then the TT Dynamic Range meter. So 2 metering plugins, and then the limiter. So the way that I approach this is I'll start, let's say I've got the song here, and I'll turn all these off. Okay, so this is what the song sounds like as I play it. And over here you can see these are the 3 mastering or master fader plugins that I have. Here's the Waves limiter. I've got it set with the threshold and the ceiling at -0.6 to give me a little room there so there's no clipping. Here's the VU meter. I've got this set to calibrated to -10. So that means when the needles are bouncing, if they're hanging around 0, that means my mix probably is about 10 dB of dynamic range, because I've got it calibrated to -10. If I did -8, then I'd have to push the meters harder to get to 0, which would put my mix probably more like an 8 dB dynamic range. So I set it to 10. That's what this song felt like it needed. And then this is the TT Dynamic Range meter, and as you can see, it actually measures the dynamic range in here, and you'll note that that number was hanging around 10 as well. And I keep those open so I can go between songs, compare levels, compare dynamic range to make sure I'm keeping things consistent as I'm going from song to song. So here's what the song sounded like coming in with really no processing.
Boy, how this river used to flow.
So the first thing you notice is that it's a significantly lower level, at least probably 8 to 10 dB below the threshold or below the ceiling. So we don't even have full volume yet because it was mixed at a nice conservative level, which is how I like to mix. So the first plugin I bring in is what's called Mix Tool. It's just a gain plugin. It does other things like mid-side encoding and all that stuff, but I use it for mastering just for gain. So as you can see, there's a knob here and a selector, and I selected this to be at 11 dB of gain. So now when I turn this plugin on, it turns up this level and turns up the level feeding the limiter, so the limiter starts kicking in a little bit.
Boy, how this river used to flow, rushing me into new land.
So as you can see here, the signal is much louder. It's hitting the limiter, hitting the threshold, and occasional hits are coming through and actually getting limited. So I'm not doing a ton of limiting, not a ton of gain reduction here, but just enough to make sure I'm hitting it nice and loud. You can see these meters are hanging around up here around maybe -3, -1. They're touching 0, and my dynamic range is around 10. So it's already pretty good to where I want it to be, but there's other things that need to happen. So next up in my plugin list is this EQ. And here's the EQ curve that I have. I've taken a little bit out at 100 hertz, because there was some muddy buildup there, and then a wide cut at around 1K to get some of the harshness out of the mix. So here's what it sounds like without the EQ.
But I just don't know how much longer
And here it is with.
I can last.
So it's subtle. You may not even be able to hear a difference, but it killed some of that buildup that was happening at 99 hertz and a little bit of harshness up here. Next, I inserted my multiband compressor. And it's essentially, I learned all of this from Ian Shepherd. I've got 3 bands of multiband compression happening, and I'll just go ahead and hit play so you can see what's going on. Each one is responding differently. So the overall amount of compression is just a little bit, but each band is behaving differently. Well, look, the lows are being nice and controlled. The mids have a fair amount of compression, but the highs aren't being compressed too terribly much, as you can see here. If I zoom in, you can see that. So here's the mid-range. Good bit of compression. That's where the vocals really sitting and the guitars. Here's the low end. Less compression, but it's still hitting it pretty hard. And this is the overall compression of the entire deal. Excuse me. And so when I add that into the chain, I'll turn it off and turn it back on. Okay, here's the song without multiband compression, then I'll engage it.
Dangerous and fast. Will I settle for waterfall? But I just don't know how much longer.
So the multiband compressor has brought in some extra, it's a little extra perceived volume, but it's really just accented the low end for me and made things sound more clear. And then the next step in the chain for me is another EQ. And this EQ I'm just using to roll off a little bit of excess low end. So down below 40 hertz just to make sure there's not any rumble there. And I did that after the multiband compressor. Not a real much of a thought process there. I just decided to do it after than before. And then that's it. So that's essentially my mastering chain, and that's how I do it. Now, how you set these settings up, it takes a lot of practice, and it takes a lot of training. I personally, a couple years ago, really was just kind of randomly going through mastering. I understood how to mix, but mastering was just a mystery to me, especially multiband compression. And then just the whole process. How do you put together your plugins? How do you decide what to do? And that's where Ian Shepherd really helped me out. And if you're not familiar with Ian, he's a mastering engineer out of England, and he's got a great training course called the Home Mastering Masterclass. And if you want to check that out, it's an 8-week class where he goes and masters 8 different songs, shows you how he does it, uses, I believe, 8 different pieces of software or several different pieces of software to show you the different options, and talks about all the different techniques and thought processes that go in to mastering something. So to me, Ian just has a great way of teaching this. He obviously understands it and presents it in a way that's really helpful. So if you want to learn more how to master your own material, you can't do better than checking out Ian's class. You can check it out at joelikes.com/HMM. It stands for Home Mastering Masterclass. So again, that's joelikes.com/HMM. Thanks again for watching this video. Hope it was helpful for you, gave you some ideas, and we'll let this rest of this song play out as the outro music. But thanks again for being a subscriber. We'll see you next week.
Dangerous and fast. Will I settle for waterfall?
Thanks.